Doc Holliday. After the Civil War, Kansas became a melting pot of the nation. The Civil War not only ended slavery in the South, it also allowed Kansas to truly become the state it wanted. With the South in ruin, Southerners looked to the North as a way of life. Men and women of all races came to the great state of Kansas in hopes of a new beginning. With thousands of people congregating in cattle towns across the West, crime started to rise. With outlaws owned the land, making life difficult for settlers to truly live their lives. As the cattle towns kept growing, so did the outlaws and the continuous problem of crime. As the West seemed to get to a point where there was nothing left but cattle and outlaws, a few good men stepped up to the challenge to change the way of life in the West. Doc Holliday, John Henry, was one of those men that took the challenge to keep the West clean. John Henry Holliday was born August 14th, 1851, to a loving family. John did not live his whole life in the style of a lawman. John Henry lived the early years of his life going to school and living in the footsteps of his father. His father was a very well-known pharmacist in the Cherokee War, the Mexican War, and a major in the Confederate Army. Once the Holliday family moved to Valdosta, Georgia, life started to change for the family. His dad was a very prominent man in town, but at the age of 15, John's mother passed away, causing him a great void in the heart of the young man. When it came time for John Henry to go to school, the decision was pretty easy due to his cousin, Robert Holliday, opened a dental school. After graduating from dental school with 26 other men, John Henry went off to work in a small dental office for Arthur D. Ford in Atlanta. The true beginning of Doc Holliday started one day when he was off to go for a swim and saw some African Americans were in his favorite swimming hole, and he started to fire his six-shooter over their heads. At this moment in life, it was certain that the hot-headed man with deep ties to the South loved the way of the six-shooter. Once Doc knew he had tuberculosis, everything changed. He consulted with a great deal of doctors, and they all said he had only a short amount of time to live. A major point of his life, knowing that he was only given an amount of time to live, Doc started to live his life through a bottle and making his living by gambling. His newfound ways started to cause somewhat of an issue for Doc. On repeated occasions, Doc Holliday found himself in the middle of a gunfight, some of which ended in disaster for his opponents. After running into some issues in Texas, Doc knew that he had to head north, or he was going to be swinging from the gallows. With a new town in mind, Doc started his way up north, where he ended up in the town of Dodge City. Once in Dodge City, Doc Holliday instantly became friends with Wyatt Earp and helped Earp clean up the town of outlaws and robbers. His new life in Dodge City did not stop Doc from standing up for what he believed. One day, when he was playing cards, Doc killed one of the other players for looking at the deck of cards. The townspeople wanted his blood in payment for his outlaw's way, but he was helped out by Big Nose Kate, his one true lover, that got him out of jail by distracting the people in town with a fire. Doc did not like to kill. The notion was that he enjoyed killing, but the notion was wrong. Bat Masterson once said Doc Holliday was afraid of nothing on earth, and that showed one day when Earp got a group of vinegar-filled cowboys from Texas that were looking to kill him. Doc came into the room where two of the cowboys had their guns loaded and ready to shoot down Earp. Doc shot the two men and helped Earp disarm the other two in the room. From this day on, Earp knew he owed Doc his life. Wyatt Earp gave Doc Holliday a great homage, saying he was the most skillful gambler, the nervous, fastest, deadliest man with a six-gun I ever saw. One of the most famous encounters Doc Holliday is known for is a fight at OK Corral. What happened in this fight is still not completely understood. They say that Ringo and his men were looking for a fight and found it, but the truth is that the men were already in pain and agony from an earlier fight and was in no shape of fighting. After the shootout, Ringo was no longer living, and one of his men was able to get away, but was caught up with on another day. After the fight at OK Corral, Doc and Wyatt went out on a mission to catch the man that killed Morgan Earp. Frank Stillwell, the man that shot down Morgan, was caught up with and killed in a Tuscan station. After Earp and Doc got the man that killed their brother and friend, Doc looked westward to Colorado. Doc moved to Glenwood Springs, Colorado at the age of 35 and tried to get back into dentistry. On November 8, 1887, John Henry Holliday, Doc, passed away from overconsumption and lies to this day in a Linwood cemetery. Life of Doc Holliday is one to be told of the Wild West. He not only was a very educated man, he was a great shot and had a hot temper to go along with it. Doc Holliday was one of the few men that helped clean up the West, allowing families to live in peace. Doc lived a very diverse life, one that many would think that he was just as much of an outlaw as the men he hunted down. To this day, the exact location of where Doc Holliday is buried is a mystery.